Did you know Naira Marley was arrested 124 times? Did you know he also had a hand in Fabian Blue's madness? This and more you would find out on this episode of The Untold Truth of Naira Marley, Mohbad's killer. Born into a middle-class Muslim family in Agege, Lagos in May 1991, Aziz Fashola knew he wasn't cut out for an average living even as a child and wished he could leave Nigeria. Maybe there would be a better life waiting for him at the other side. It wasn't long his wish was granted when his parents decided to tell him that he would be relocating to the UK. So excited he couldn't hide his news from his peers about traveling out. I would do same in his shoes, especially with how hard it is to live in Nigeria. At 11, all he needed to leave was ready, and it was time to say goodbye to his friends, family, and also a life in the trenches. But being a young boy, he was ignorant of the fact that where he was going to would be worse than where he left in Nigeria, contributing to the foundational reason he became known as one of the most notorious drug lords. After a long flight, he finally arrived London and was on his way to his new neighborhood, Peckham, one of the worst areas in London, known for its high violent crime rates, gangs, killings, and lack of safety in South London. On their way to the city, he noticed the city was so cold, with people minding their business. He also noticed small groups always gathered in different places, smoking and doing drugs. But at that time, it didn't make sense to him being a kid. At last, he was home and couldn't wait to start school so he could mingle and make new friends. Before the cock crew, Aziz was up, making sure he wasn't late on his first day of school in order to give the right impression. He was done preparing and was on his way to school when he saw again a small group. But this time, they weren't just smoking, but had a victim whom one of them stabbed to death and allowed the rest to do away with his lifeless body. Okay, this was more than he bargained for, was his thought, where he was hiding so he doesn't become the next victim. Going back home, he explained what he saw to his guardians, and they warned him not to tell anyone else or his life would be in danger. They further explained to him how Peckham was not an ordinary city and he would have to be more careful from henceforth and also make sure he minded his business. Still reminiscing about the information fed to him by his guardian on how Peckham is run by gangsters and cartels, he mistakenly ran into some young lads who had brothers who were also gangsters, and they became friends with Aziz. His new friends were also his classmates, which made it easier for them to introduce him into drugs and running errands for the drug lords at the time so he could be protected and not bullied by other gangs who saw every JJC as a threat. They further expounded to him that here in Peckham, you build your reputation by being caught with drugs than without it. In more words, they explained that everyone in Peckham, including kids, had broken the law and gone to jail in their lifetime. Grown up now, he wanted more than just being or seen as an errand boy, so he spoke to his friends who also agreed it was time they worked together and created their own crew. Finally, they created a crew they called No Manners Gang, which were feared and known to be very notorious and the most violent gang known for drug trafficking. But wait, am I the only one who has heard the name No Manners somewhere before, aside being a crew name? Oh no, it just dawned on me that No Manners is also the motto for the Malians. Looks like Naira Marley wanted to build a fan base of drug peddlers. In 2015, their crew was growing, getting new members and also getting successful with the drug business. He decided it was time he pursued his dream of wanting to be an MC, but his friends would rather he became an artist, which he didn't imagine himself becoming. After so much convincing from his friends in the studio, he made his first hit song, Back to Work, where he spoke about drugs and how he and his team wouldn't forgive whoever double-crossed them. To his surprise, the song started making hits than he had imagined, and he began to take music more seriously, beginning from changing his name from Aziz Fashola to Naira Marley, and still not forgetting his drug business. He had built the reputation of a don by being arrested 124 times for rape, grand theft, and drugs. In 2017, he was convinced it was time to leave London after making his first big money from drug peddling and declared wanted by the law enforcement. But making sure his tracks were covered so he would be granted visa, he came back first with the disguise of him shooting a music video for the Isa Go single made for Nigerians during the 2017 World Cup. Getting more fame after the release of the song, he decided to stay longer and release more hits like Potoi, where he established his Malian fan base. With more of his song becoming an anthem and gaining more prominence like Sopi, it wasn't long until Naira Marley broke the law and found himself in jail again with the EFCC after he released the controversial single Am I a Yahoo Boy. He was investigated and charged with 11 counts of fraud and a stolen car, but he was released from jail 14 days after being granted bail. Not long after he was released, another witness testified against him in court, which led to the adjourning of his case to the 27th of January. Just when we thought he would be calm and decide to tread carefully since he has a case with the court, Marley, who already had the habits of breaking laws, decided to contravene the lockdown order imposed by the president to contain the spread of coronavirus in the country. But I'm not shocked, I mean, what did we expect from a boy who grew up in a notorious neighborhood known for breaking laws and doing drugs? In 2019, he established his Malian record label where he signed artists like Zeno, C Black, and late Mohbad Imole. To the artist, it was going to be about just releasing hit songs, but to Naira, who wanted to expand his business, he introduced them into first taking drugs so he could have a chokehold before recruiting them into selling of drugs also. But to make sure his secret was safe and buried with the label, he asked them to swear an oath, of which Mohbad refused. Meanwhile, aside trusting the boys to expand his business, he also started reaching out to more influential politicians, colleagues in the music industry, organization, and drug business owners in the country. Could our president be one of these politicians he's working with? Because Mr. Tinubu has been accused in the past of being a big-time drug don, which was confirmed by Naira Marley. And looking closely now, it was just after the inauguration of President Tinubu, Naira became an ambassador of the NDLEA. Whoa, busted. Looks like samlarry was also his associate in making sure his drug business here in Nigeria was going smoothly without any interruptions from anyone, including the artist signed into the record label. Iretiola Aloba, popularly known as Mohbad Imole, was becoming an interruption to his business, and with the responsibility given to samlarry, he knew what he had to do, which was making sure Mohbad didn't become a burden anymore. But let's go back to how it all started in favor of those that hasn't been following the story. Iretiola Aloba, a well-known rapper, singer, and songwriter from Ikorodu, who started with freestyles, caught the attention of Naira Marley, the drug lord, who saw potential in him not becoming just a signed artist, but also a good source to expand his drug business. With this motive, he offered a deal to Mohbad of just being signed as an artist to his record label. Mohbad, who was also a Malian fan, saw this as an opportunity to be with his idol and also become one of the greatest artists ever heard. To add, he also needed to get his family and himself out of poverty and decided to sign the deal with the record label. But unfortunately for him, he had signed more than being an artist without his knowledge. This is the reason why rushing into anything never brings good result. And I think upcoming artists should follow the advice of ID Kabasa in getting a lawyer before a manager to avoid situation like Mohbad repeating itself. Moving on, Mohbad got arrested by the NDLEA while he was still in the label, added with the fact that he was already being ill-treated by the record label because he refused to take the oath of secrecy. He decided to walk out of the label. This became a problem as he was constantly assaulted and bullied by samlarry and his thugs. According to Bella Shmurda, who was his best friend, he testified that his friend Mohbad almost committed suicide once and is currently an hypertensive patient because of his issues with the label. But this did not stop Naira, who wanted to make a point to both his signed artist and outsider on what happens to those who challenges him. It was a show of his power and control to whoever was interested. After so many assaults, bullying, and trying to kill his career, they finally were able to get rid of Mohbad on the 12th of September. What a sob story. Little wonder why ID Kabasa also said in his life, after the passing of Mohbad, that wrong money entered into the music industry and is the reason why the industry is suffering. Could Naira be one of those he's talking about? Although Mohbad wasn't his only victim, there was Fabian Blue, a 26-year-old gifted young singer who had passion for music and started attending various auditions for a number of musical ventures. He later got into the competition Dare to Dream in 2018 where he won. Winning a competition like that attracted the well-known Aziz Fashola, who as usual offered him an irresistible offer of being one of his signed artists. It was obvious he took the deal when Naira Marley reviewed him as one of his signed artists alongside Mohbad and other artists. The young man was having a great day and was smiling for the cameras, going ahead to release the single Sisi Nene and later Instagram featuring Mohbad and Naira Marley. Now my question is, why would we suddenly never hear of Fabian Blue anymore after 2021? Should we believe the news that he was one of the artists that ran mad after offered the second deal of being part of his cartel? Because a full-blown human being doesn't just disappear like that, even on social media. But it's Naira Marley. If he can mastermind a man's death, what else can't he make happen? I would let you guys do justice to the question asked in the comment box while we talk about DJ Splash, who also was a victim of madness after he was given an opportunity to work with Naira Marley. At this rate, Naira should be awarded the record label with the highest case of madness, assault, harassment, drugs, and maybe death if he is found guilty for the death of Iretiola Aloba. Or don't you think so too?